this is a fillet, and once we get them, we break them down into their main cuts. So roughly 180 grams. This is the fillet tail. So typically we'll sell this on a little special, so you'll get the whole tail instead of just getting another portion there and throwing this portion away. So this is one of our center cut fillets, so it's a perfect shape. And in order to cook the fillet, what we're going to do is just season it liberally. So just season it liberally. This is fine salt. Best not to use a really coarse salt at this stage. Just add a tiny little bit of oil onto the board, and then this is going to help all of the peppers stick. We've got quite a coarse grind pepper here. In the end, we'll season it with some fine pepper. Let's talk about pan. The most important thing about cooking a steak is getting what we call a crust. Now, Harold McGee, in one of his really interesting books, he went into the details of why the crust tastes good, and it's something called the Maillard reaction. So the Maillard reaction occurs when you've got a super hot pan, and it's the process of caramelizing the outside of the meat, and the juices going down, sticking to that, and caramelizing further. So typically coffee, chocolate, lots and lots of different flavors, as that caramelization gets pushed further and further. So I added the oil to sort of like season the pan. I've seen a lot of different methods of how to cook steak online. Crucially, with a fillet steak, what you want to try and avoid is something called a grey line. So it's a really fine balance between getting a really nice char, Maillard reaction, getting the flavour on the steak, but also if you give too much heat from the bottom, what you're going to do is you're going to aggressively cook a really grey, horrible line into your steak, and when you go to carve it, it just isn't going to look anywhere near as desirable. And what we call it in the restaurant is the French word is cuisson, and what we're really looking for in, like, say, a perfect medium rare is to have a perfect line of pink the whole way through it. With the Maillard reaction, what you want to do is you want to keep turning the steak. I'm going to call out people like Guga and all these things. I see very often that they'll leave the steak and they won't turn it, and they'll hold it for a good amount of time on that. I disagree with that. I think if you make sure you cut a very thick steak, first of all, portion this size is going to be robust enough to keep turning it and develop the flavour whilst not sacrificing that cuisson inside. Touch more oil, and it's just basically what we do is we're going to add oil to begin the cooking process, but we're going to finish the cooking process with butter. Butter burns at a much lower temperature than oil. Oil can easily get past 220 degrees, and it smokes aggressively, but it won't burn as such. We've been doing the work to get that Maillard reaction. So this actually, in a way, it sort of deglazes the pan and keeps it and cools it down a little bit. So a good amount of butter in there, get that really nice and brown and nutty. So brown butter just releases these beautiful flavour compounds. We're going to continue to cook it by basting it in this beautiful nut butter. Personal preference, I don't add garlic. I think the garlic often burns and can taste a little bit bitter, but I do add herbs. So rosemary and brown butter is like one of the best flavour compounds you can get. And then something like thyme, that like really satisfying crackle when you put thyme in the pan. And a little tip for you, save your butter paper. So, and just gently wrap it around the meat. That meat is going to continue to cook. Now you always see people put fillet steaks in the oven to finish them. Set a timer for like 2 to 3 minutes, flip it one more time, and then after that take it out of the pan and let it rest. It's going to rest up easily to 48 degrees, which is exactly what we want for medium rare. I think there's this real bullshit thing in cooking. Oh, using a probe is cheating. Well, it's just stupid if you don't use a probe, because it's so easy to tell the exact internal temperature. Now you saw I probed that was on 20 degrees, okay? And I'll bet my left nut that in about 10-15 minutes, maybe less, 8 minutes, that is gently going to creep up to the desired temperature that we need. Okay, so the next piece of meat that we're going to be cooking is a sirloin. I think the Americans call it a strip loin. We use dairy cow at Fallow, so you want to be aiming to cut your meat at about 280 grams of fallow. Small bit of oil, season it liberally. Coarse black pepper there. People say that pepper burns when it goes into a pan. You know, I've eaten a lot of steaks. I don't think I've ever tasted a burnt pepper. I actually think it just gets quite a nice toasted flavour. Right, so let's check this steak. So you can see now we're on 46 degrees there. Just take that fillet out now, place it, and then don't waste this, look at that brown butter. So we're pretty much there. What you're looking for is for this meat to hit temperature, so 48 degrees, basically it's there. It coming to temperature is still that piece of meat cooking, so it still needs to rest for a minimum of at least 10 minutes once it's hit temp. For the restaurant we use these because they're super versatile and incredibly durable. Good ceramic one, that'll be good. Or just buy a cast iron pan. I mean, it's one of those things, it's a good investment for basically your entire life. Smoking oil, again, start on the fat side. Want to get that little bit of sinew on the outside of a sirloin rendered before everything else. Often you're not cooking one steak, you're cooking for your missus and you want to put 2 steaks in the pan. That is going to make a big difference on when it's very easy to cook 1 steak. It's quite hard to cook, 6 steaks for a dinner party. Never put more than 2 in a pan. Massively going to affect the quality of the crust that you can get on there. Slightly controversial, but I'm flipping the steak fairly often, so you're managing the temperature of that pan really well. You can see the crust starts to develop super quick if you're cooking at the right temperature. So I think it was Heston who came up with this technique, and this is how we used to do it in his restaurant, and it does. I stick by it. It's always that trade-off between crust and cuisson. Right, so we're going to add butter now. So we've achieved that crust that we wanted. Rosemary, thyme, and that's it. Sirloin's super easy, all right? So that's going to come out and it's going to our resting tray. I reckon the whole process for that sirloin is going to be less than a 10-minute cook time, less than an 8-minute cook time. It's going to rest for a long time. Although 10 minutes seems like a long time, but we're on 48.8 degrees there. And it's rested 10 minutes. You know, you can feel it, it's beautifully cooked. So that's finished fillet, okay? So that's what you call the cuisson. And that's what when you're talking about medium rare, what you've got is you've got the crust on the outside, which you can see, area where the heat's gone through, and then you've got this sort of fairly consistent line, which is that perfect sort of ruby red, deep red, medium rare colour. Achieved all of that pretty much within about 20 minutes. Perfect. Perfectly cooked. There we have it. Perfect cuisson. Super nice crust on the outside. Even on both sides, so maximum flavour. Then we have that lovely, lovely ruby red medium rare all the way through it. Small little kernels of caramelised pepper on there as well. Absolutely delicious.